Welcome to the F50 Woman Podcast, dedicated to sharing stories from a diverse community of women in order to provoke you into a passionate pursuit of life, build unshakable character, and achieve extraordinary things. Now, here is your host, Julia Jack.
Hey, F50 Women, thank you so much for joining. Today, we're with Danielle Turner. She is a therapist, the businesswoman, and the owner of Inner You Clinical Services. She's here to talk about her journey to self-care as a therapist who also deals with mental health issues and the importance of self-care for us women as we grow older. Her story is unique, so I'm excited to share it with you, and I'm hoping that those who haven't been through it can learn. When you're dealing with others, you can have some empathy. You can help them understand the barriers and the challenges. And if you've been through it and you're dealing with the challenges, that you'll get some strategies how to get the help that you need. So thank you so much, Danielle, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So I always like to start, just go way back before, sometimes that's where our issue started when we were younger women or younger girls. Tell us about who you were as a younger girl, what you wanted to be, what you wanted to do, and what you were dealing with then.
Honestly, I don't know that I actually had anything I necessarily wanted to be. You know how sometimes as a kid, you're like, oh, I want to be a nurse or I want to be a lawyer. There was really nothing that I wanted to be. And I feel like that's because of the way I was raised. I was raised in a two-family home. You get married, you have kids, you get a job to take care of yourself. You have nice things. You go on a vacation. There was no go to college. There was no, you can be anything that you want to be. So I don't know that I really had a dream. I feel like the job that I have now, I kind of fell into it. It wasn't a career choice, but I realized that I was really good at it. And now it has become my passion.
Nice. Okay. So tell us how you went from there. Did you end up getting married and doing the things that you were expected to do and then getting into this career?
So I did. I got married, got the house, got the kids, got the nice fancy cars, had all the nice things. My marriage did not last. It was very traumatic for me because my expectation was I'm supposed to have a husband. Now I'm by myself, which was fine. I was able to maintain and do all the things I needed to do. But just that piece of not having the husband was really difficult. Like losing my family was my biggest struggle. And so I got divorced in 2006, but it wasn't really until 2012 when I really grieved it and kind of was able to move through it. I'm a firm believer we don't get over things, but we move through things.
Yeah.
And so it took all those years for me to finally do the work that I needed to do in order to move through that. Even after that, it still was a struggle because, again, my expectations were you're supposed to be married.
So why did it take so long, do you think, or looking back?
Some of it was going back and forth with my ex-husband. That emotional attachment was still there for both of us, as well as the kids. And so sometimes we would do things together as a family. I feel like that kept triggering that ideal of I need to have a family.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. That happens whether you have a boyfriend or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then in 2012, I went through a very bad depression. I realized that I needed to grieve my divorce. Ironically, I went to a therapist for help. And after talking a little bit and kind of, getting to know me a little bit, she says, oh, yeah, I don't think I can work with you because I know your ex-husband and his new girlfriend. We're really good friends. That just set me over the edge at that point because I'm trying to move through this and everything I do, he's just back. I went through a very difficult time. I've had suicidal ideation, just very bad. I would cry for hours and hours. I got some help. But one of the things I realized is that the therapists that I were working with, they really didn't understand me. They didn't relate. And so even though I got that help and I was able to move through that period of time, I still struggle with depression very bad for maybe another 5 years or so.
Okay.
often.
So before you go further into the story, tell us about depression. Because I think, those of us who haven't had depression, we think, I've been sad before. So you just have to have positive thoughts, or I've been sad before. So you just need to, go running. We don't really understand what depression is and why would you be crying for hours? Get up, suck it up, it's over.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people have that mentality, like just be happy.
Yeah.
Trust me, if I could, I would have, and other people who suffer from clinical depression, if they could, they would, but there's something going on. Sometimes it's a chemical imbalance. Sometimes it's your mindset that keeps you in that spiral or whirlwind. One of the things I always say to my clients is you're keeping yourself in your own storm because you're not doing something different. And so if you consistently just sit and cry and keep thinking negative thoughts over and over, it's just going to get worse. You get to a point where it's not even that you want to die. You just don't want to feel like that anymore. So you don't know what else to do.
So continue your story. After you got in that deeper depression, you did get some help. So what happened next?
I went on about life. One thing about me is I was what I like to call a functional depressed because I still went to work every day. I took care of my kid. I went out with my friends. I got dressed. I would put the mask on and just suck it up throughout the day because I had to work. I had to take care of my son. I had to have a life, be with my family. And it just got to a point where I started to crack.
Yeah.
And when I realized that I was getting into that excessive crying again and the feelings of loneliness were coming in, that's when I knew like, okay, I'm going to spiral. I would have periods of time where I would just sit in my garage because I didn't want to go in the house because now I'm by myself.
Yeah.
And so again, that mentality, the belief that you have to have a spouse was something that just ruminated with me for years.
Did you know you were putting that mask on during that period of time?
Definitely. I would cry all the way to work, get in the parking lot, be like, okay, get yourself together, get out the car. At the end of the day, get back in the car and start crying again. So yeah, I knew what I was doing.
So how can we tell if somebody's going through that? Or is the mask so masky that we wouldn't be able to tell? I know a couple of people in my life struggle with depression, and I didn't really know depression was this thing that drags on forever and ever. And I would hate to think that they're getting in their car crying all the way home and they just left me.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say check on the strong friends. Check on the ones who are able to maintain and who are doing all the things and who are always laughing. The ones where you don't think something is going on, sometimes just check in with them and just say, how are you? Like, how are you really doing? It is helpful. Give them the opportunity to be vulnerable with you if they want to and need to. That's important.
Thank you. So keep going with your story because I know there's more.
So after that was probably about 2017, 18, my son at this point had graduated high school. So, he's off doing his thing in school, just hanging out with his friends. So there was a lot of times where he was not home. And even when he was home, it wasn't his responsibility to fill that void for me. I didn't burden him with that loneliness or feelings of isolation. I found another therapist. I searched high and low. And through that period, I still tried other therapists, but they just didn't work. They couldn't relate. And I needed to find a woman of color because I felt like I needed someone that looked like me, who I could talk to and they would understand certain jargon or lingo without having to explain. A lot of times I would work with other therapists and they would say, how did you get those braids in your hair? You just had short hair last week and now your hair is long. I needed someone who could understand that Black girl magic. I met a therapist and she let me cry when I needed to. She allowed me to be vulnerable. She didn't beat around the bush with me. She really gave me some solid advice. The turning point for me was in one session, I was saying how I don't want to be alone. And I feel like that's my worst fear. And she said, you're already living that fear. You're already alone and you're okay. And I don't know why, but the light bulb came on at that point. And I really started doing the work to get better. In the midst of this, I met someone and he and I were kind of going back and forth off and on. He needed to do some work. I needed to do some work. Right now, we have a great relationship. We're not married, but we do have a great relationship. And I really just started pouring into me. I really worked on changing my mindset. When those negative thoughts came in, I challenged them. For every negative, I thought of two positives.
Okay.
I really put some thought behind it and said, okay, that doesn't even make sense. You're being irrational. And that really helped. Journaling helped. Spending time with my friends, really being present in the moment
Okay.
was very helpful as well, because before I had that mask on.
Yeah.
I wasn't always present.
Okay.
Everyone else is having a good time. Sometimes I'm just sitting there,
Yeah.
and I'm listening enough that I can chime in. So you think I'm present, or I can chuckle with you a little bit, but
Right.
really my mind was somewhere else. So I really started to be very present
Okay.
with my family, very present with my son, very present with my friends, and really just enjoying the moment.
Okay. Did people notice the change? Did anyone say anything like, oh, you changed, or you seem
Yeah.
more present even?
I
Yeah.
think my mom,
Okay.
conversation with her as well. She was very helpful for me through all of this. One of my friends, Tiffany, was very helpful as
Okay.
well. And the rest of my supports were helpful, but those two were my main supports through all
Okay.
those years.
Okay. Mhm.
Presently, people say that. Yeah. So just like last Saturday, I went to an event, and after the event, one of my friends called and she said, "You're glowing. Look happy. You're in a better space." So I think that now where I'm at in life, people are noticing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So what was it about the braids and the hair and those kind of questions and that kind of interaction? How did that shut down your healing?
I think for me, that's not what I'm here for. If I come in, as long as I come into, and I say this with my clients, is if they come into my office for a session and they are presentable, I don't care what I
Yeah.
don't care what your hair looks like. That's not why we're here. We're here to heal.
Yeah.
So regardless of what I look like, that should not have been a topic of conversation.
Yeah.
And as women of color, we change up our styles often. So the fact that you focused on that, or you would say, but you went to brunch with your friends. So how is it that you're depressed? Because I'm a functioning depressed person. And so I can do that and
Wow. Yeah.
still have those symptoms of depression.
Yeah.
I just felt like I needed to be with another woman of color who could relate to me, who I could really be vulnerable with, and who could understand my struggle.
Yeah.
That was very important.
And what other differences culturally, if you can put your finger on it? I know some of those things are it just is. And sometimes you
Mhm.
can't put your finger on it. But are there other specific things culturally that counselors and those who do therapy need to be aware of?
I would say not necessarily.
Okay.
I feel like when you're looking for a therapist, regardless of their color, that was just my experience, right?
Okay.
It doesn't mean that everyone needs to be with a clinician of color if they're a person of color. Find someone that you can relate to.
Okay.
Find someone that you feel comfortable with. Find someone that you feel you can be vulnerable with. One of the things that I feel is my superpower as a therapist is that I can relate to my clients, whether they're a person of color or not. There are things that I can be very transparent and say, listen, I've been there. I've been divorced. I've
Yeah.
been sad. I've had anxiety. I still deal with anxiety to this day. I've done these things to get through and to move through these situations. So here's the blueprint, and you try it and see if it
Okay.
works for you. So really just finding someone that you really can relate to, I think is very important.
Right. Okay. You were in a different career. You pivoted into becoming a therapist. Why? What made you do that? Tell us about your passion now.
For about 16 years, I worked in child protection. I felt like I had done everything in child protection that there was to do at a certain point. I just felt like it was time for me to move on. I was also going through my struggles, and I wanted to be able to help other women and men too, and give them a space that they could come in and relate to. So I left child protection, and I went to work, and I still work there now for one of the area hospitals.
Okay.
But I still felt like in that position as a therapist, my clients, we weren't relating. It was not relatable. And I just said, you know what? I need to have my own space. My job at the hospital is just a room. It's a room with a desk and two chairs.
Yeah.
There's no comfort. There's no couch. There's no nothing to make you feel warm and comfortable.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's important when you're in therapy because you want to be comfortable. You're talking about some serious stuff.
Yes.
And to be in a chair that's just awkward and there's a big desk and I'm just sitting behind a desk, it doesn't feel very personable. So I decided to start my own private practice for interview clinical services. And it is an awesome practice. I love what I do. I love the individuals that I work with. I can see the healing in them, as well. And I learn from them just as much as they learn from me.
Okay.
And one of my main things is self-care. Like that's my thing. In addition to doing therapy, I started InterMe self-care coaching services.
Okay.
So that individuals can really hone in on self-care and build that plan that's achievable and sustainable because we don't do self-care enough. We really don't. Yeah.
So, Danielle, I hear self-care all the time. And it's become this word that you hear so much.
Yes.
That you're sort of like, well, what is that? I had ice cream last night. I felt cared for because I felt, that's not what it means. But help us to understand when you say self-care, what does that mean? How do we do that?
It means anything that you enjoy and that's going to make a healthy impact on you. Okay. So for me, I love to organize, right? So, and I had to learn over the years, like I'm a very systems person. Taking everything out of my dresser drawers and organizing makes me feel good. For me, that's self-care. Okay. I always tell my clients, think of even small things. If you like to sharpen pencils, get you a box of pencils and sharpen away. Anything that makes you feel good, that has a positive impact, that fills you up and makes you feel good so that you can continue on with life. Anything that's going to help you navigate stressors.
Yeah.
So if that's exercise, cooking, organizing, art, or painting. But I also think self-care is also about our inside, the things that people don't see. Okay. And so we have to take care of our emotions. We have to take care of our spirituality. We have to take care of our inside too, because we have to love on ourselves. And to me, that is self-care as well.
Yeah. And do you do that in your life? Tell us about what your self-care might look like.
So one thing I do every day, which helps set my day, is in the mornings, I take 5 to 10 minutes and I write out some affirmations, something I'm grateful for. And I give myself a very small goal, even if it's something like when I get home, I'm going to vacuum. Something that I know I can achieve, because then that helps me be like, oh, look, I did it, right?
Yes.
And it also sets my tone for the day. So when I walk out the door, when I pull out my garage, I'm in a good space because I've affirmed myself. I've listed the things I'm grateful for. I've manifested, I write down the things that I'm manifesting. And every day it's the same thing because I'm manifesting the same things. So that's one thing I do every day. Yeah. I do monthly massages, appointment every month. I get a massage because that for me is amazing. I also, again, like I said, organizing is my thing. So, my family is like, oh, here she goes again. We can't find the spoons. What you do with them?
Yes.
That's my thing. I spend time with my friends. I make sure that I have good supports in place. I have separate sets of friends. So I have my business friends that motivate me, encourage me, help me, with business ideas. I have my friends I'm at brunch with, I have my friends that I'm going to shop with. Yeah. So, I really make sure that I have very positive, motivating people around me, because that helps me stay motivated and loving on myself. I date myself. Go out, take yourself out to dinner, buy yourself some roses or flowers if you like that. Don't wait for someone else, because then you'll always be waiting. You may never get there.
That's a really good tip. Gift yourself some of those things that you're waiting for somebody else to give you. Why not? It's not weird, ladies. It's self-care, it's self-love.
And as we get older, we have to be able, because the reality is there's a lot of older women who are empty nesters.
Yes.
Once you hit 50 and up, you might be home alone. Why not take yourself out? You never know who you might meet.
And then if you think about it, say you're a married woman, you're 65 or something, and you have a spouse, it's good to know how to do that, because should he pass away, God forbid, you're not like, what do I do now? I'm lost.
Right.
Exactly. Help yourself to be whole now. So should that ever happen? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
So I'm sitting in your chair. We worked through some really deep challenges. And now you're telling me to do this self-care.
Mhm.
Um, what if I say, I don't know what I like. I don't know what I like to do. I don't know, what would you tell somebody is like, I don't know. Maybe they raised 5 children and now they're all grown or whatever situation they're in. How would you help me in that situation?
That is a common thing. Even for myself, people say, do you have hobbies? And I'm like, I don't think I have any hobbies. Sometimes you really have to dig deep. Okay. One of the things that I would say to you is make a list of things that you even think you like, even if it's something you haven't done. So let's say you've never been on a hike. Put that on your list. Let's say you like painting, but you haven't painted because you have the kids. You haven't painted since you were in college. Put that on the list. Really search for things that you enjoy. It could be something very simple that you're overlooking. Because I think we take things for granted, right? This cup of tea I'm drinking, I drink tea every day. What's the big deal? But really be present while you're drinking that tea. Be mindful. Really see how the tea is it soothing you? Is it making you feel comfortable? Is it relaxing you? That's self-care right there. And you don't even know it.
I love that you said that because I love coffee.
Oh, me too.
And I might need therapy for this one. I feel like it's bad. Like you drink too much coffee, you love it too much. You have to stop doing that. But as you're talking about the tea, I'm like, well, why can't I explore different kind of coffees and have a coffee day?
If it's not having any physical health issues, then why not? If it's not keeping you up at night, why not? If that's what you enjoy. And I love how you said, why can't I try different coffees? So maybe that could be your self-care, educating yourself on different kinds of coffees throughout the world. And ordering them and trying them. Why not?
I love that. Oh my goodness. I just had a bit of a revelation right now. Why can't that be self-care? Why can't you feel like those are the things you love? And it's like, that's not a big deal. So now I have to find what I really love. And the whole time it's right in front of you.
Exactly. But we take things for granted sometimes and we don't really think about it. So go get you some international coffee.
I know I'm going to look it up after I'm done. I really am. So what's next for you? What is your forward-looking dream, or what are you hoping to achieve, whether it's individually with your clients in your life or bigger?
Honestly, for myself, I want to continue on this path of healing. I am a firm believer that we're always healing. Just like our hair is growing every day, our nails are growing every day, we're also growing. And being able to heal and have growth for ourselves is very important, Business-wise, just flourishing, continue to flourish in my business. Right now, my focus is on my coaching services and expanding those. I also have a podcast as well, so expanding that as well. Just really honing in because I believe that you have to make an impact. If I can help one person to not feel like they need to not be here because they don't have a significant other, then I feel like I did my job. That's important for me. Yeah.
And so you feel like there are lots of yous in that area where you don't have a spouse. Okay. And older women, not just younger women, the 24s. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of my practice is between the ages of 40 and maybe like 65. And a lot of women come in my office, they're empty nesters. Maybe the kids are in college, their husband, they're divorced or they're widowed, and they're working and they're professional women. And it sometimes is hard to take care of ourselves when we have to juggle so many things.
Yes, it is. You gets lost in all of those things.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's really important. I even say schedule it. Get a calendar, put it on a calendar.
Yes.
And even throughout the day, even in work day, doing things like getting up, stretching at your desk. I'm a firm believer that water.
Yes.
Drink your water. I don't know what it is with water, but it works.
Yes. I am working on that too every day to get that water in. Yeah.
Exactly. So just doing small things throughout the day that make you feel good is helpful.
Okay, good. So if you were to meet your younger self, what is the one piece of advice you would give her?
That's a good question. I would tell her that she could be anything that she wanted to be. I would tell her that she was beautiful. And that it's okay to be alone. that you can live a fulfilling, happy life by yourself.
Yes. And do you think she would listen?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
And you know why I say that? Because she was very much a person that did what she was supposed to do. So if
okay.
you told her this is what you need to do, then she was going to do that. If you said to her, you're beautiful, if you said to her, you can be anything that you want, if you said to her, you can go out and be a businesswoman, or you can be a doctor, you can be a nurse, she would have done those things because
Okay.
she was told to do that.
And so now, as your older self, do you feel like if you were able to tell yourself that as a younger woman, do you think you would be better off now, worse off now, or different?
I don't know, because I'm a firm believer that things happen in our life for a reason. And had not all those things happened, I wouldn't be who I am right now.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm okay with the struggles that I've been through. My story is, there's so much more to it than just this piece right here. Yes, those things were traumatic.
Yeah.
Could I make better choices? Probably. I'm okay to acknowledge that I had a part in some of it too.
Okay.
Had I not done those things, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I'm very happy at 50 at who I am. I always would say, oh, I can't wait till I'm 50. Nobody can tell me what to do. I lived half a century. Say what I want, do what I want. I'm very happy to be at this age. I am happy about what's coming, and just being fabulous at 50. Like that's my thing.
Do you feel like other women that you know at 50 are feeling that too?
I do.
For the most part.
I do. And again, because I surround myself with like-minded women that are empowering, that are motivating, that are doing their thing, that are taking care of their families, that are business women, so everyone in my circle that's my age and older, we're pretty much all the same.
Okay. And how would you advise someone else who comes to you to be able to find that kind of friendship, that kind of community? How would I go about doing that?
One, I would say being vulnerable.
Okay.
You can't be closed off. Dating yourself is important. If you sit around and wait for someone, you may never get there. If there's somewhere you want to go. You never know what friendships you're going to make while you're out doing something. There's a little restaurant around the corner from my office. And one day in between clients, I just went there. I sat at the bar. I know everyone in there. I go in there all the time. I've made some great connections from the individuals that I met. And it wasn't because I was looking to find a mate or any, it was just I wanted some wings.
You were being, yes.
Right. So just being present, being mindful, and taking some risks to do things that are uncomfortable. It's going to not feel good in the moment, but after it's going to be great.
You can't have a different life if you're going to stay and do the same things,
Exactly.
Be the same person. Do you have a book that you would advise all women to read?
Okay, so I got to be a little biased.
We don't mind that.
I would advise them to read my book
because we want to know what's real. Yeah.
I was in an anthology called Blessed Not Broken, Volume 4, The Power of Letting Go. And it's myself and 5 other women. And we have each a story about something in our life that we needed to let go of. Yeah. And it's amazing. There are some amazing stories. We give blueprints of how we move through things. I just think it's a great book. Even if I took myself out of it, the other women's stories are amazing as well. Yeah.
Letting go. Okay. So maybe we'll talk for a minute just about that. Okay. What is the importance of letting go? Because I don't know, it's letting go of people, or could it be letting go of thoughts? Just talk about generally.
Like you said, people, sometimes we stay in situations and have toxic relationships, whether it's family, friends, significant others. Yeah. And why? Why are we staying in it? You can love someone from a distance. I love you, but I'm going to stay over here in my corner. You can stay over here in yours. If I happen to see you in passing, how are you? How's the kids? How's the family? Good. Everything's great. Letting go of negative thoughts about yourself, because that holds us back. We don't feel good about ourselves. We're not going to feel good at work. We're not going to feel good in relationships. We're not going to feel good at church. We're not going to feel good with our family. It just spills over to every other aspect of our life. So letting go of those negative thoughts are very important. Letting go of beliefs. I had this belief all my life that I had to have a husband. Yeah. I'm an adult now, right? Yeah. I can change that belief, and I can make my own beliefs as an adult, but we stick to things that our parents teach us and beliefs that we've learned in our formative years, and we just run with them for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Let that go.
Yeah. And it's okay.
It is okay to have your own belief system and do your own thing. Some people may not like it, and that's okay too. Because again, you can love them from a distance if you have to.
I'm curious, what did you learn from your work in child protection that helps you in your work today, if anything?
I think it's empathy, being able to ask the questions to get to the bottom of what's going on. Because in child protection, you're asking a lot of questions, really digging deep to make sure that child is not being neglected.
Okay.
And so I think I've carried that through as a therapist because I will ask a lot of questions because we want to dig deep. We want to heal that inner child. We want to heal that kid that has those same beliefs. Now you're 50, you're still believing something you were told at 7. A lot of times with my clients, we do a timeline and we start from birth to 5. What happened in your life? Okay, let's heal that 5-year-old. From 5 to 10, what happened? Let's heal that 10-year-old. Because sometimes we're stuck at a certain age and we don't even realize it.
Yeah. I have heard that when you have trauma at that certain point, you can sort of get stuck there. Yeah.
Exactly. So I've learned through child protection to have empathy, be kind to people, because anytime you could have knocked on my door and said, hey, Danielle, like what's happening with your kid? So you want to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes so that you can treat them fairly, give them what they need and really make sure that they are doing what they need to do for themselves, for their kids, for their family, for whomever. Yeah, that's important.
I was talking to a friend of mine and we were talking about therapy. A few people we know were in therapy and, there's an idea that someone is not with such a great therapist. They might, how can me as someone who's looking for a therapist, because you said, shop around, look for someone you can relate to. But say I find somebody I think I relate to, what are the signs that maybe they're not so good for you?
I would say if you are closed off, if you feel like you can't talk about trauma, if you feel like you can't be yourself with them, if you come in the room and you're just like, I have nothing to say this week, because sometimes people come in and just like, I got nothing. Yeah. So, then as a therapist, I'm going to start asking questions. I'm going to dig deep. Why do you feel that you have nothing to say? Because you came in my office for a reason, right? You voluntarily came here. So what's going on that you feel you don't have something to talk about?
Are you supposed to tell me what to do? You're supposed to be my director. You're supposed to tell me what to do next.
Nope, not at all. That is not my job. Okay. My job is to help you figure out what to do on your own. So I'm going to guide you personally as a therapist. I always say I'm going to the left with my clients. So they know that I'm going deep and I'm going to jump off this ledge, follow me, giving you another perspective so that you can think of all sides of the problem without me saying, this is what you should do. I'm never going to tell you what to do because you're an adult. At the end of the day, you're going to do what you want to do anyway.
So I'm just going to help to clear out the blocks.
Yeah. Right. Guide you to make the best decisions for yourself.
Okay. And did you share your life and your challenges with your son? Or is that we shouldn't do that? There's sort of a balance between what you share, what you don't share, and how you share it. I know you shared earlier that you didn't make him responsible for your emotional health, the comfort for you. So how do we share these things with our children to empower them, to help them understand that we understand, but not drag them into our drama?
For me, this is just my opinion. There's certain things that kids don't need to know.
Okay.
So there's certain adult conversations or problems or struggles that you're going through that for me, your kids just don't need to know. So yes, he knows that I have depression. Yes, he knows that I have anxiety, but he doesn't know the triggers to that because I don't want him to take that on either.
Right.
Because I've been able to share with him some things, he does help me sometimes. Like he'll be like, okay, Mom, you got this. You can do it. Go for it. So he really good advice. Yeah. Because he knows that I struggle with my anxiety sometimes. And I don't want him to not know that he can get help as well. Right. And so if you're closed off and you don't say anything and you stay, kids are what's the word I'm looking for? They see, they observe, they can tell that something's not. The teacher sent home a drawing of their family And he drew a picture of his dad, like to one side, because at this point we were divorced. He drew a picture of his dad on one side. He had pictures of his brothers from his dad. And then he was on the other side.
Okay.
But like he drew tears. Kids are very observant. And even though we may not think that they know, they can tell.
They understand and they're very intuitive. They feel what you're feeling more than you realize.
Exactly. They pick up a lot of things that we don't think they do.
I remember one time, I think my husband and I got in a fight. So I was in my room, I was crying, I came back out. I think I'm toughing it out, whatever. I'm good. I'm good. My husband asked my son, "Where's your mom? What's your mom doing?" or something. And he said, "She's sad." I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm fine." No, I'm fine. But yeah, even though you think you're fooling everybody, you're not fooling them.
Not your kids.
Well, I have 2 more questions. One question is, how can the audience get in touch with you after this podcast is over?
So my website is www.innerullc.com. You can purchase my book on there. I also have a self-care workbook that they can purchase on there too. They can reach me by email, which is Danielle Turner at innerullc.com. I'm on Facebook, Inneru Clinical Services LLC on Facebook and Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'm Danielle Turner. So
you work with all age ranges, just 50 and over?
No, I do 18 and above.
So get
therapy, group therapy. And then again, I have the coaching business, the services, which are a little bit different from therapy because we're not addressing any mental health issues or any trauma. And that I have a one-on-one program and a group coaching program as well.
Excellent. Okay. So get in touch with Danielle. Her links will be in the show notes. Click on a link. You'll find her, get her book and get hooked up with her coaching. Or if you need therapy, then please do that. Don't hesitate because there are people who care about you and will help you.
Yes.
My last question is, Danielle, you've done a great job with your life. You're 107. God comes and says, well, you know what? You've helped so many people. I'm so proud of you. So I'm going to give you one opportunity to leave a message with the world. What would that be?
It would be take care of yourself. Make yourself a priority. If you pass out because you're stressed, you can't help anyone else. Take care of yourself. Make yourself a priority. Incorporate self-care in your day, your week, your month, however you can. Even when you have stress, even when there's so much going on, be grateful for the things that you have versus the things you don't. And just try to have a positive mindset as much as possible.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for being here. Oh, and drink your water, she said. Yes. Don't forget to drink your water. I love it. Thank you so much, Danielle, for joining us.
Julia, I appreciate it.
You've been listening to the F50 Woman podcast. Join the F50 Woman movement and this diverse group of voices to help change the world one woman at a time. Why should you join at your age? Because we're not done yet.